Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and I swear I am still a book reviewing channel. However, before I can take a break from reviewing the other stuff, which this year has been mostly TV shows, I have one last adaptation TV show review that I want to get out to you. That is, unless I decide to do a review for Interview with the Vampire. Tell me if you'd like to see that. Tell me in the comments down below. But yeah, today I want to give you my final thoughts on House of the Dragon, which of course the last episode just aired, is currently airing, is airing in a few hours. I don't know, to be honest. And I have to be honest as well, I did go out and look for the leaked episode of the finale. The reason for that being that I can now get this video to you. So yeah. Bonus points for that, I guess, for the leak. But before I can get into my final thoughts, a few things out of the way first. First of all, of course, I did a first impressions video. I did the same for Rings of Power, so that video will be linked down below and up there. Although I don't remember what my first impressions were, generally speaking. I think it was like, interesting, but also kind of boring. Like, I think it was along those lines. And then the other thing, although I did also cover that in my first impressions video, I want to repeat, where I stand with the source material for House of the Dragon. It's just something that I like to do with adaptations when I review adaptations, so, that you can get a picture what, point of view I started from, I guess. And with House of the Dragon, similar to Rings of Power actually, I kind of want to talk about where I stand within the broader universe that this is set in. So I have read the A Song of Ice and Fire books. I have watched A Game of Thrones. I have not watched it quite to the end. I think I didn't watch the last 3 or 4 episodes anymore. Maybe 2 or 3 episodes, I don't know. I didn't watch the last few episodes, I didn't watch the finale. But with A Game of Thrones, from the very beginning, like the highest of feelings I had towards the show was at most lukewarm. I did not care about it particularly much. And in fact, when I watched the first season for the first time, I didn't even make it through the first season. And then in terms of the direct source material for House of the Dragon, I have not read Fire and Blood. However, I do have this handy dandy book, which is The World of Ice and Fire, The Untold History of Westeros and the Game of Thrones. I have not read through the entirety of this book, but before I started the show, I did read up again on the chapters that concern the Dance of Dragons. So, I'm aware of the broader picture, I would say, of the plot that's gonna be covered within House of the Dragon. But I think actually when it comes to House of the Dragon, there's something very interesting, and that is that the source material is written as a historical account. And as a historical account that was set down, I think years, if not centuries, after the stuff happened within the Dance of Dragons. So not only do you have historical biases and missing sources and so on within that account, you also have to consider the biases of the sources that the people writing the account are using. So while of course we do have generally bigger plot points, sometimes within Fire and Blood there's conflicting stories, or there's multiple ways you can interpret things, and obviously because it is written as a historical account, you don't really get the personal feelings of the people involved the way you would with a normal book where you have POVs and so on. And so I think there's a lot of room for interpretation when it comes to the show, and where they don't really have to stick to the script that much. If you get what I mean, if that is something that you prefer in an adaptation anyways. So yeah, now that I have all of that out of the way, let's get into the review. This will of course be spoiler free, although I might share some spoilery thoughts at the very end, but before I do that I will obviously warn you, so if you have not seen the show yet, you can click away. But actually, if you've been on the internet in the past 2 months, the people watching Fire and Blood just did not give a fuck about spoilers. They were like, yeah, you already have this. Why do we have to spoiler warn people? But anyway, my general thoughts. my general thoughts are kind of difficult, because on the one hand I do think the single episodes, while there were 1 or 2 episodes that kind of bored me a little bit, generally speaking I think the single episodes on their own were good to excellent. However, for me personally, the show as a whole did not really work. And the main reason for that is that the way the show is set up is you have a lot of time jumps. Basically, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, I don't think so. Basically, you don't really get the Dance of Dragons within this show. This first season is all set up. It's all built up towards, you know, this big climactic thing that we know is going to happen, this war that was one of the worst wars in Westeros history. And so to get through that build up and to get through to a certain degree through the childhoods of the characters, the single episodes or between the episodes there are a lot of time jumps. Most episodes had like at least 6 months time jumps in between, sometimes 1 to 2 years, a lot of times 7 to 10 years. I think there were 2 episodes or 2 spaces between episodes where no time jump happened. What that also meant is that the actors and actresses that played the characters frequently changed. And with the changing of actors and actresses, there's actually also another problem that comes with it, which I'll get to later. But in terms of the time jumps, it just felt like I personally, for what I want for a show, it didn't give me enough time to get to know the characters. I just felt like I just always got just a brief glimpse into their lives and then I was ripped out again. And I was put in at a different point, brief glimpse, ripped out again. It just really bothered me because I feel like because of that, a lot of the relationships also weren't given enough time, like especially when it comes to Alicent and Rhaenyra, who are obviously our 2 main characters in this first show, like our 2 main opponents. And we were told that they were such good friends when they were children and that they were really close. But we only really got to see that in 1 episode, and within that episode we got to see it in like, I don't know, 3 scenes, 3 short scenes. And from that alone, we're now supposed to, you know, feel for how their friendship is falling apart. And from that, we're supposed to garner all that history that then informs how they interact with each other in the other 9 episodes. That's just not how that shit works, at least not for me. You need to give me something for me to believe that these 2 girls are the closest friends ever. By the way, that's also something when I heard a lot about which types of scenes were deleted, it often felt like it was exactly those types of scenes that just, you know, grow relationships that were deleted, while other scenes that I personally did not think were all that necessary. Gotta be honest, that shit could also have happened off stage or, well, off screen. They were kept in. But yeah, the relationships really suffered from that. And I think another thing that really suffered was the character writing. And that is once again, now in the last episode, there was a scene, again, no spoilers, where a lot of people now complain that this action was so out of character for this character. And other people were like, well, he was set up like this from the very beginning. What do you say? Why do you say that it's out of character? And I have to say that I kind of agree and disagree with both parties on that. I think sometimes action seemed out of character while keeping with what the character was established to be because of the time jumps, because we had very little time to properly establish the characters. There's a ton of different characters in this one once again, especially the children hardly are established or hardly were established because we had like, what, 3 episodes with them, 4 episodes with them. And so because we had so little time with the characters, even the characters that were there from the beginning, which those complaints are about a character that was there from the very beginning, we saw some very conflicting actions for all the characters, and so we didn't have time to establish, okay, which part of their characterization is actually the main one and which is just sometimes, you know, because characters obviously take conflicting actions. Not every action taken has to be within keeping with the character. You know, sometimes characters can surprise you and can take actions that you'd say are out of character, but they should be, you know, one-off. And with some characters, with a lot of characters, we just had, you know, they were flip-flopping a little bit. And it was also, I think, a little bit of a case of the writers liked some of the characters too much. And so on page, it was one thing, but then the way the actors played them and the way they were written, it was another thing a little bit. So yeah, just... the time jumps were really the biggest thing that I had an issue with, gotta be honest, because, and I'm now coming to the actor switching or actresses switching. I mean, we had the main switch of young Alicent and young Rhaenyra to older Alicent and older Rhaenyra, which I think overall was okay as a switch. I especially loved it because, you know, I love both Emma Darcy and Olivia Cooke. They are both just, they do things to me, let's put it like that. But even there, I think young Rhaenyra and Alicent and older Rhaenyra and Alicent seem a little bit too close in age to be 100% believable, especially since the older Alicent and Rhaenyra we see once again over the period of 10 plus years. But I get that that's very difficult to portray it properly. My issue was mostly with who they decided to switch, because then you have an actor like Fabian Frankel who plays Kristen Cole, and he's like somewhat, I think, 5-ish years older than Alicent and Rhaenyra, and the character definitely is supposed to be 30 years older than Alicent's oldest child, but the age difference between him and Alicent's oldest child, like the actor who plays him, is I think 8 years or something. And they just straight up, like Alicent's children and him straight up look the same age. And they're supposed to be 30 years between them. And I'm just like, sorry. And then also things like the actor for the grown-up version of Alicent's oldest child, Aegon, as well as the actress who plays Alicent, or older Alicent, Olivia Cooke. They are, I think, 1 or 2 years apart in age. Like, Alicent was a very young mom. I think she was 16, 17 when she got her first child, but yeah, 1 year age difference might be a bit much, a little bit unbelievable, you know? And so you have just a lot of actors who are supposed to play characters of very different ages, but they all just look the same age. And it's a bit of an issue. It's not as much of an issue as it could be because the performances are stellar. I'll get to that later, but it's a bit of an issue. So the last negative thing I want to mention is there's some things there when it comes to the writing where I am not all that happy. First of all, within the first 5 episodes, I think, the people who died were women and gay people, which I'm not sure we want to do that. I am really not sure we want to do that. So yeah, but that aside, I also think that some of the storylines just didn't get the point of view that they deserved. I don't know how else to put it. Like, one of the central relationships is between Rhaenyra and Daemon. Daemon is Rhaenyra's uncle. He is way older than her. Also, once again, does not look way older than her, but he is way older than her. And he basically grooms her. And that is, again, while taking the source material with a grain of salt, that is also in Fire and Blood. There is, like, you know, judgment that Daemon most probably groomed Rhaenyra. And for me, the way the show portrayed the relationship was just very much a romance and very much not grooming, very much not, this is kind of iffy. It's giving more like, ooh, they're a power couple. It's kind of changing towards the end now, without any spoilers, but again, I don't like the way that whole relationship was done, I have to be honest. and I also don't like the way, and so I don't really think it's spoilers, but if I get into concrete spoiler stuff, I will just put this book up and you can skip ahead until I don't put this book up anymore. But first, to lead into it, we were promised that there wouldn't be any graphic rape, and to like give credit where credit is due, there definitely wasn't graphic rape in this show. There were some scenes that were like very hard to watch, but there wasn't graphic rape. The sex scenes also generally, I think they had a really good intimacy coordinator, and also I think just the way the sex scenes were shot was generally very well done, and not as, you know, exploitative and voyeuristic as a Game of Thrones did it. Generally speaking, I think we had 1 or 2 scenes in a brothel, and even in those scenes there wasn't really the, you know, walking through the screen with boobs out type of thing. So yeah, I think generally nudity, sex scenes and so on within this show was well done. I'm not exactly sure if the second part of the promise that they had with we won't have any graphic rape scenes, but if there is rape, it will be given the importance it deserves. I'm not exactly sure if that was the case. If we got that, especially when it comes to Alicent. And I think even though there wasn't really graphic sexual gendered violence, I do still think there was a lot of graphic gendered violence. And now the spoilers come, so skip ahead until I'm not holding this book anymore if you don't want to know what I'm about to say. So there's 10 episodes and there's 3 miscarriages. 3 fucking miscarriages. That's basically a third of the episode. There was somewhat of a thematic progression within those miscarriages, which I won't get to, but to be honest, like, sexual violence is not the only type of mostly gendered violence. And with miscarriages, it's even more so because, you know, only about 50% of the population can have miscarriages. So yeah, it's still obviously not just women can have miscarriages. Anyone who has reproductive organs, a uterus, can have a miscarriage. But since the biggest part of the population that has a uterus is women, it's still a type of gendered violence. At least the way it's portrayed. Like, it's natural, of course, and it happened, it's historically accurate or whatever. Well, they didn't have the birthing scenes be historically accurate. Actually, with Rhaenyra, it partially was. But generally speaking, not the most accurate birthing scene, at least the first one. But yeah, I know that all the miscarriages are in this book as well, but yeah, just another thing where I have an issue with it, with the way they just, you know, stuffed so much time into this first season, because if we didn't, then maybe we wouldn't have had 3 miscarriages in 10 episodes. Like, excuse me? Anyway, there is misogyny within the show. There are a lot of instances where the agency of the female characters is just taken away, and not just in a way of they live in a patriarchal society, what agency do they have, but where the character's agency was taken away. Like, whatever. Let's now get on to the positive things, because this review, once again, is way too long already. So, the first positive thing, as I said, the actors. All the actors and actresses were absolutely amazing. I love Emma Darcy as Rhaenyra. I love Olivia Cooke as Alicent. I'm okay on Matt Smith as Daemon, it's whatever, but Paddy Constantine, is that what his name was, as Viserys? Amazing performance. Also Millie Alcock, and I forgot who the actress's name was who plays young Alicent. Both of their performances so good as well. Then even the newer actors and actresses that we get for the children as they become older are really great performers. So in terms of a cast, they they did the show justice. They have amazing actors and actresses. Then the costuming, the set design, love it. The details on the clothing and just in the set design is just amazing. And I think, I gotta be honest, I watched it obviously at the same time as Rings of Power as so many people, and that's where a lot of the designs in the Rings of Power were just like, you just drew the short straw. I'm sorry. Like compared to House of the Dragon, you could as well be cosplay bought at the Halloween store. I don't know, but like Rhaenyra's dress that she wears for a lot of episode 9 as well as the beginning of episode 10, the embroidery on that dress is just, it's gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. And then that's actually it, what I can say for specifically positive things without getting into spoilers. I feel kind of bad because I feel like I ranted for a long time, and to be honest, I did overall enjoy the show. I, for example, enjoyed it way more than Rings of Power. I'm not exactly sure if I'm excited for season 2, but that has more to do with the source material and me, spoiler, not seeing the point in watching the show because of what happens within the source material or what's happening by the end of the source material. So, you know, it has more to do with that than the show itself. But yeah, I think just maybe the negative stuff took a bit longer because I had to explain why the negative stuff was negative for me. But yeah, overall, the single episodes I really enjoy. I do not necessarily know if I have a favorite episode. I have a few favorite scenes that I'm obviously not gonna mention because spoilers. I do think they have a few things still to improve in terms of writing women, even though they have a lot of women on the team already, so that is great. But I just, you know, when it comes to writing women, I just have a very high bar for me, and I don't know what that accent was. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the series. I loved the single episodes. It did not work as much as an entire first season for me. I wish we had gone more into detail, and I wish we had gotten more from younger Rhaenyra and younger Alicent. I wish we had seen more of how their relationship developed, but also in terms of where you want to put the finale. I also understand why they were kind of pressured to write the first season the way they did, because to be honest, I'm not 100% sure where I would have put the finale otherwise, especially if you want to have, you know, a high tension finale. And so yes, I think that was it for this review. I will try to cut it down to, you know, a more manageable size. Tell me in the comments down below if you have seen the first season of House of the Dragon. What are your thoughts on it? If you haven't seen it, are you still considering watching it? If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club are linked down below, so go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!